In Deuteronomy chapter 17, verses 14 to 17, the rules for a king are laid out by God, and there were 5 of those. It was required that the king be an Israelite. It was required that the king was chosen by God. It was not an inherited position. And then there were 3 things the king was not supposed to do. And if you were in my Old Testament introduction class at seminary, you would know these. They were not supposed to multiply weapons, wives, or wealth. Now, if you know the story of King Solomon, he multiplied weapons, wives, and wealth. Unfortunately, it led to his downfall at the end of his life. So if you'll turn to 1 Kings chapter 11. Unfortunately, King Solomon does not end well. I myself want to end well. I want to finish well. I don't want someone to say, man, Brother Paul was an awesome Christian. He was such an inspiration to me. I wanted to be just like him, and he just blew it all. I don't know what happened to him. I don't want to be one of those stories. I want to finish still serving the Lord. I want to be like the Apostle Paul. I want to be able to say, I've run the race, I've fought the fight, I have finished the course. And unfortunately, Solomon does not do that. Chapter 11 is a record of his final years where he does not finish well. And it is a challenge to us and a warning to us that we should strive to finish well, to complete the course that God has laid before us. So in 1 Kings 11, verses 1 through 8, there's a description of his personal life, and really that kind of flows out into everything else. The Bible says, now King Solomon loved many foreign women, along with the daughter of Pharaoh, Moabite, Ammonite, Edomite, Sidonian, and Hittite women, from the nations concerning which the Lord had said to the people of Israel, you shall not enter into marriage with them, neither shall they with you, for surely they will turn away your heart after other gods. Solomon clung to these in love. He had 700 wives who were princesses and 300 concubines. And his wives turned away his heart. For when Solomon was old, his wives turned away his heart after other gods. And his heart was not wholly true to the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. For Solomon went after Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. So Solomon did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, and did not wholly follow the Lord, as David his father had done. Then Solomon built a high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, and for Molech, the abomination of the Ammonites, on the mountain east of Jerusalem. And so he did for all his foreign wives who made offerings and sacrificed to their gods. Now the whole problem here can be summarized in these first half a dozen words or so. Now King Solomon loved many foreign women. Now I want to make clear that the problem here is not a national issue. It's not a racial issue. It's not a cultural issue. It's a spiritual issue. The Bible basically says, here's who you're supposed to marry, a fellow believer. Marrying someone not like you is completely acceptable to God. My experience is, if you have 2 people who are like each other, that marriage struggles. God's kind of designed it for us to complement one another. And I realize for those of you who are perfect, all you need to do is find someone who's perfect like you. But for the rest of us, we kind of need somebody to complement. So this has nothing to do with the fact that they are of a different nationality. The problem is that they are servants of other gods. As a matter of fact, we get a list of some of the descriptions here of them. Along with the daughter of Pharaoh, and she was the first foreigner that he married and early in his life, and she's mentioned numerous times in his life. Then we get these other Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Sidonians, and Hittite women. Now, verse 2 reminds us the problem with this. The nations concerning which the Lord had said to the people of Israel, you will not enter into marriage with them, neither shall they with you, because they will turn away your heart after their gods. It is 100% completely a spiritual issue. Don't intermarry with people who are going to pull you away from serving the Lord. And God told them this more than once. For example, in Exodus chapter 34, verses 15 and 16. Then again in Deuteronomy chapter 7, verses 1 through 5. He's told them, do not marry the foreigners. Don't have them marrying with you, because they will lead you to serve other gods. Now this makes pretty good sense. Pretty easy to follow, pretty easy to understand. But verse 3 is unique. Verse 3 is unlike anything you probably read anywhere else. The dude has 1,000 of these. 700 wives and 300 concubines. Now, what's a concubine? Well, in the Bible, a concubine is a second-tier wife. So I ask you, is being first-tier wife number 412 really that much better than being a concubine? I don't know how you classify these. Of course, the jokes are endless. Can you imagine what it's like when you look at your calendar and every single day has anniversary on it? Most days have anniversary twice on them. Solomon with 1,000 wives means he has 1,000 mothers-in-law. All right, you laughed. I just stated the facts. So now, many of these were political alliances to try to help bring peace to the nation. So that's one of the ways they would enter into alliance with someone else. But he has 1,000 of them. And what do? His wives turned away his heart. Into verse 3. Here is the problem. Here is why he does not finish well, because his wives have led him to serve other gods. Verse 4 reiterates it. For when Solomon was old, his wives turned away his heart after other gods. His heart was not wholly true to the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. For Solomon went after, and now we get some examples. These aren't all of them, some examples. Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Sidonians. Now your Bible may say Astarte, which was the Sidonian name. Ashtaroth was the Hebrew name. She's oftentimes portrayed as a tree or a pole to represent fruitfulness. It was a fertility religion. She was the consort, live-in girlfriend, lover, whatever term you want to use, for Baal. So Baal was the male deity and Ashtaroth was the female deity. So we have Ashtaroth. Then we have, after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. And again, your translation may have Molech, which is another term for this. And these are relatives of the Israelites. By extension, they are Lot's, a result of Lot and his daughters. And so they are serving the god Milcom. And then we're repeated again. Verse 4 is repeated again in verse 6. Solomon did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, did not wholly follow the Lord, as David his father had done. And then we get the worst thing that he did. Then Solomon built a high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, and for Molech, the abomination of the Ammonites, on the Mount of Olives, the mountain east of Jerusalem. Now, why are Chemosh and Molech set apart like this? The reason is because these two gods demanded child sacrifice. Now, there is never, ever an acceptable situation to sacrifice a child. Whether to a deity or personal convenience or whatever, it is never acceptable to murder children. And so that's what these gods did. Now think about this. If Solomon has 700 wives and 300 concubines, that's probably a lot of children. They are sacrificing some of his children to the gods Chemosh and Molech. That's how far away Solomon has been led by these foreign wives, his lack of commitment to them. Here's the way one commentator put it. He said, his wives led him to deny the God whose temple he had built. His wives led him to deny the God whose temple he had built. Now, I think it's interesting. We teach our children, be careful the friends that you pick. Pick the right friends. I mean, we push that really hard with our children, and I think we should. Okay, apparently you think your kids just run with drug addicts and murderers and everything else. I think it's good to teach our children to pick their friends wisely. And we teach them that. What stuns me is how many adults will teach that to the children, but they don't live that themselves. This is not just a principle for children, it's a principle for everyone. The people that are closest to you are going to affect your life. And there's no relationship we have that's closer and tighter and more intimate and has a greater effect on us than marriage. I mean, for goodness sake, she stuck with me for the rest of her life. It is the most important of relationships that we have. And one of the reasons is shown here because he's married all of these. They lead him astray. It is important that we teach our children to pick their friends well. But it's most important that if they get married, they pick their spouse well. We want believing children to grow up and to marry people who are believers so that they can walk together in the Lord. Because if not, it's going to be very difficult to finish well. And so Solomon is led astray by all of these women. But these aren't the only people in his life. Solomon has extended people in his life, and we're going to read about them beginning in verse 9. Now, these are mostly political interactions, but even though we may not be the king, have all that political, we still have people that we have interactions with in our life. So look what it says in verse 9. And the Lord was angry with Solomon because his heart had turned away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice and had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods. But he did not keep what the Lord commanded. Therefore the Lord said to Solomon, since this has been your practice, and you have not kept my covenant, my statutes that I commanded you, I will surely tear the kingdom from you and will give it to your servant. Yet for the sake of David your father, I will not do it in your days, but I will tear it out of the hand of your son. However, I will not tear away all the kingdom, but I will give one tribe to your son for the sake of David my servant and for the sake of Jerusalem that I have chosen. Now I want to note something here. David is not perfect. We have a record of many of his own failings. So why is Solomon compared to David so much? Here's the reason. David disobeyed God and was repentant. Solomon is unrepentant. He continues down this road, and so that is the reason that this is going to happen. So look what happens in verse 14. Look what God does. And the Lord raised up an adversary against Solomon, Hadad the Edomite. He was of the royal house of Edom. For when David was in Edom, and Joab the commander of the army went up to bury the slain, he struck down every male in Edom. For Joab and all Israel remained there 6 months until he cut off every male in Edom. But Hadad fled to Egypt, together with certain Edomites of his father's servants, Hadad still being a little child. They set out from Midian and came to Paran, and took men with them from Paran, and came to Egypt, to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, who gave him a house, and assigned him an allowance of food, and gave him land. And Hadad found great favor in the sight of Pharaoh, so that he gave him in marriage the sister of his own wife, the sister Tahpenes the queen. And the sister of Tahpenes bore him Genubath his son, whom Tahpenes weaned in Pharaoh's house. And Genubath was in Pharaoh's house among the sons of Pharaoh. But when Hadad heard in Egypt that David slept with his fathers, and that Joab the commander of the army was dead, Hadad said to Pharaoh, let me depart, that I may go to my own country. But Pharaoh said to him, what have you lacked with me, that you are now seeking to go to your own country? And he said, only let me depart. So verse 23, God also raised up as an adversary to him Rezin, the son of Eliadah, who had fled from his master Hadad Etzer, king of Zobah. And he gathered men about him and became leader of a marauding band after the killing by David. And they went to Damascus and lived there and made him king in Damascus. He was an adversary of Israel all the days of Solomon, doing harm as Hadad did, and he loathed Israel and reigned over Syria. Now, we get all these different people, two in particular here, Hadad and Rezin, who become enemies of Solomon. But notice how it's described. 3 times this word's used, adversary. Verse 14, Lord raised up an adversary. Verse 23, God raised up as an adversary. And then verse 25 again, he was an adversary. Now, the Old Testament was originally written in Hebrew. That was the language they spoke. It's the language we'll speak when we get to heaven. They spoke in Hebrew. Now, we are very thankful that somebody has translated the Bible into English. We can read it. But the Hebrew word translated adversary is a word that you know. It's the Hebrew word Satan. He raised up Satan against Solomon. Satan is not his name. Lucifer is his name. Satan is a title. He is our adversary. And I want you to notice that it said that the Lord raised him up. Verse 23, God raised up an adversary. Understand that when you are under assault by Satan, it is never beyond the control of our God. We are not in a cosmic battle where you pick a side and hope you pick the winning side. We are in a cosmic battle where the decision has already been made because God is God, period. And so God uses him as an adversary. And so don't think somehow, man, Satan's got a hold of me and God can't stop him. No, Satan still falls under the authority of God, our adversary. And so he raises up this adversary against him. So I want you to notice what we have here. We have Solomon, we have Hadad, we have Rezin, but it's not just these 3 guys. Notice that their actions impact lots of other people because other nations are involved. Pharaoh's gotten involved. And they're going to go to war. And when they go to war, the people in the land are involved. Anytime there's a war, everybody gets involved to some extent. And so what I want us to see here is in finishing well, we need to think not just about ourselves, but about the impact that has on others. So if I can illustrate it for you. I need 3 volunteers. All right, John, let's go. Micah. All right, James. Now, so if you'll take that in there, and you'll take that in there, you'll take that in there, and then hang on just a second. If you'll take one end, John, if you'll take the other end, thank you. And then Mike, if you'll take one end, John, if you'll take the other end there. Now y'all kind of spread out. There is a real danger in the way we think as Americans, because we have this kind of I'm my own person, independent way of thinking. And it makes good sense. Look at many of the ancestors. They got on a boat. If you've ever seen the Mayflower, that thing is not a ship. It's a boat. They crossed the Atlantic on that thing, and then you realize, and they cooked their meals with an open fire on a wooden boat. Who does that? Brave people or crazy, there's a fine line, do that. I mean, who did westward expansion? Not people that need to live down the street from mama, people that are not jobs. They're independent. They're venturesome. They're the ones that, so it's kind of sort of in our DNA that we're like that. So in some ways it makes sense. But we need to realize that's not the way life really is. I don't just live my life and that's it. My life is connected to other people. And my actions have an influence on other people. And their actions have influence on each other. Now here's what's kind of frightening. When we think about our influence on other people, typically all we think about are negatives. No, you're not dead yet. We're still connected. There you go. And that's what we have here. But I want to encourage you that not only can you have a negative impact on other people's lives, even innocent people. This is why we tell people don't drink and drive. Somebody who's inebriated crosses a line and hits a car driven by mom and her two children. They're innocent. We realize our negative actions impact others. But we also need to realize the good news is that our actions can also positively impact other people. The little ones, like smiling, thank you, have a good day, Merry Christmas, all the way to the big ones where we make personal sacrifices for people, where they see us demonstrate the love of Jesus Christ. So here's what's happened. It's not that Solomon has failed and, oh, that's a shame that Solomon didn't finish well. We need to realize that part of us wanting to finish well is that we want it to be a positive influence on other people. We want to be an encouragement to them. We want to be an example to them of what it means to finish well. And so Solomon's not just him in his personal life, but it's him as it affects everybody. Oh, by the way, thanks guys, great job. Oh, and you braided our lives together, even nice. So one of the dangers of not finishing well, but also one of the encouragements to living well, finishing well, is the impact it has on other people. I want people to know that I finished what I started. I want them to see your life and see you be faithful to the end. To finish what God has called you to do. To allow Him who has begun a good work in you to bring it to completion. Because it will be an encouragement to other people. It will be an example to other people. I want us to be role models of what it means to be faithful to the Lord to the end. And so Solomon, in his personal life, but also in terms of publicly as he's related to other people, it has affected not just him, but so many others. And so in verse 26 to the end of the chapter, there's now a prediction of what's going to happen. Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, an Ephraimite of Zeradah, so he's from the tribe of Ephraim, he's an Israelite. Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, an Ephraimite of Zeradah, a servant of Solomon, whose mother was Zeruiah, a widow, also lifted up his hand against the king. And this was the reason why he lifted up his hand against the king. Solomon built the Millo and closed up the breach of the city of David his father. The man Jeroboam was very able. And when Solomon saw that the young man was industrious, he gave him charge over all the forced labor of the house of Joseph. And at that time, when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem, the prophet Ahijah, the Shilonite, found him on the road. Now Ahijah had dressed himself in a new garment, and the two of them were alone in the open country. Then Ahijah laid hold of the new garment that was on him and tore it into 12 pieces. Why 12? 12 tribes, very good. Yeah, 12 tribes of Israel had 12 pieces. So he said to him, verse 31, take for yourself 10 pieces. For thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, behold, I'm about to tear the kingdom from the hand of Solomon and will give you 10 tribes. But he shall have one tribe for the sake of my servant David and for the sake of Jerusalem, the city that I've chosen out of all the tribes of Israel. Now, for those of you that struggle with math, 10 plus 1 is 11, not 12. So what happened to the other one? Well, Simeon actually is completely surrounded by Judah and is going to be absorbed by Judah. So they'll all be called Judah at some point. So we have Judah in the south. And then we have the 10 other tribes. So Jeroboam's going to become king over these 10. Now, why in the world would God do this? We're back to the same thing we've run into several times throughout this chapter, verse 33. Here's why. Because they have forsaken me and worship Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Sidonians, Chemosh, the god of Moab, and Milcom, the god of the Ammonites. And they have not walked in my ways, doing what is right in my sight, and keeping my statutes and my rules, as David his father did. Nevertheless, I will not take the whole kingdom out of his hand, but I will make him ruler all the days of his life for the sake of David my servant, whom I chose, who kept my statutes, my commandments, and my statutes. But I will take the kingdom out of his son's hands and will give it to you 10 tribes. The reason for this is because of the disobedience of Solomon at the end of his life. Because he has not finished well. The kingdom is going to be torn apart and divided. But God is still faithful to David. Matter of fact, verse 36 says it again. Yet to his son I will give you one tribe, that David my servant may always have a lamp before me in Jerusalem, the city where I have chosen to put my name. And I will take you, and you will reign over all that your soul desires, and you shall be king over Israel. Now watch verse 38. And if you will listen to all that I command you, and will walk in my ways, and do what is right in my eyes by keeping my statutes and my commandments, as David my servant did, I will be with you and will build you a sure house as I built for David, and I will give Israel to you. You know what God just said? Solomon didn't finish well. If you will finish well, if you will walk before me all the days of your life, I will build you a sure house. So he says to Jeroboam, you could have what Solomon could have had. Don't fail as he did. Verse 39, and I will afflict the offspring of David because of this, but not forever. Solomon therefore sought to kill Jeroboam. But Jeroboam arose and fled into Egypt, to Shishak, king of Egypt, and was in Egypt until the death of Solomon. Now the rest of the acts of Solomon, all that he did and his wisdom, are they not written in the book of the acts of Solomon? It's like his personal diary. And the time that Solomon reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel was 40 years. And Solomon slept with his fathers and was buried in the city of David his father. And Rehoboam his son reigned in his place. Now, understand, there are many people who do not finish well because they think it will not happen to them. They say, oh, it won't happen to me. It won't happen to me. I've served God a long time. I may let some things go at the end, but it won't happen to me. The consequences, they won't happen to me. There's a term that psychologists have come up for this. It's called the optimism bias. The optimism bias is the belief that it won't happen to me. And so what's happened to Solomon? Solomon said, well, it won't happen to me. Listen, don't think you can walk with God for 40 years or 50 years or 60 years and that you've earned enough credit with God that you can let it go the last few years. Because it won't happen to you. I'm telling you, here's the way it goes. We disobey God. We are rebels against God. We stand guilty before God. But we have a God who is gracious and loving and merciful and kind and forgiving. And in this we rejoice with everlasting joy. This is the message of the Bible. It's the message of our church. It's the message that we want to present to the world, that you have disobeyed God, but our God of grace and love and mercy will forgive you. However, some people take that to mean, well, if God is loving and forgiving, then I can just do whatever I want to, and he will still be gracious and forgiving of me. No, here's the way it works. God puts a line. You don't know where it is, but God knows where it is. And if you continue to live in rebellion and disobedience against him, when you cross that line, it's too late. Judgment's coming. Consequences are coming. Don't think it won't happen to me. It happened to Solomon, and it's happened to so many. Do not take the grace of God for advantage. Don't presume upon the forgiveness and the mercy of our God. I think it's the greatest thing in the world that we have a gracious God, because if we did not, we would be in terrible trouble. But don't presume that because God is gracious, that you can do whatever you want to, and it won't happen to you. Here's what the prophet is warning. He's saying it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Don't live in the optimism bias that you can disobey God and it won't happen to you. We want to finish well. Here's the way the Bible puts it in Galatians chapter 6. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever one sows, that will he also reap. If we sow to the flesh, you will reap corruption. But if we sow to the Spirit, from the Spirit we will reap eternal life. And let us not grow weary of doing good. For in due season we will reap if we do not give up. I do not want to sow and quit. I want to be faithful to the end. Do not be mocked. You cannot live for a while for God and then not. I just can't tell you how bad this is. We spent the last couple months looking at the life of Solomon. Man, this guy had it all. He walked with God. He had prosperity. He had peace from foreign enemies. People in the land loved him. Things were going great, but he didn't finish. It is so tragic that the last record we have of Solomon is 1 Kings chapter 11. That he did not finish well. I want to finish. I want the last chapter to be better than the previous chapters. I want to finish well. I don't know about you, but I am so glad that Jesus finished well. Can you imagine? I mean, think about it. What if Jesus would have said, look, I've done a lot. I made lame people walk. I made blind people see. I've had thousands with bread. I turned the water into wine and I could walk on the water. My goodness, I raised dead people back to life. I have done enough. I'm done. If that's what Jesus would have done, we would not be here today. But Jesus didn't stop. He didn't say, oh, I've done enough. Oh, look at all I've taught. Look at all the miracles I've done. Look at all the lives I've changed. I've done enough. I'm going to walk away here at the end. No, Jesus finished well. And understand, finishing well does not mean it's going to be easy. As a matter of fact, Jesus, facing the end, said, I don't want this. However, not my will, but yours be done. And so Jesus finished well. Matter of fact, when Jesus hung on the cross, paying the penalty for my iniquity, to pay the cost for my guilt, Jesus uttered these words, it is finished. He finished well. And so what happens when you finish well? What happens when you have sown your life in the Spirit? There is going to be a great harvest. What happened? Jesus didn't just sow his life on the cross, but he reaped everlasting life when he rose again on Sunday morning. And you and I are a part of the great harvest that is a result of Jesus finishing well. We don't look for the day of death. We look for the day of hope of the resurrection. Why do we endure to the end? Because we know how great the end is. That's why we stay with it to the end. I do not want to be like Solomon and check out early. I don't want to clock out before my shift is over. I want to finish well. I want to be like Jesus. Even when it's difficult, I want to finish well. I want to be faithful to the end. Oh, let us not be weary in doing good, because in due time, we will reap a great harvest.